Our next guest is one of the best in the business. Nate Johnson is from St. Louis, Missouri, and in addition to owning a real estate business, he's been involved in leadership positions on the state and national levels in real estate, economics, and also community projects. Plus, he's a super fun guy who loves to be out and about in his hometown. Wouldn't you say, Nate?
Absolutely,
You're like
Sarah.
Mr. St. Louis to me. You love your community. You love being out and getting involved in everything that's going on. And you've also been a realtor for your entire career. Mm-hmm. And you've seen hundreds of people buying and selling homes.
Yes.
And you're in it every day. It's part of your life. You know that business, that industry, but most people in our audience have maybe never purchased a home or only do it every 10 or 15 years, let's say. Mm-hmm. And making that decision on how and where and when to buy a home is a big one. It's huge, right? So if you had someone, let's say mid-20s, just starting out, just maybe they've been renting for a few years and now they're thinking about getting into a home purchase, what advice would you give them about where to begin, where to even look?
Well, that's a great question, Sarah. I really believe that home ownership is the sort of key to success in our communities. And when people invest in home ownership, they're really setting themselves up for financial freedom and financial success in the long run. And so the decision for people to invest in home ownership is extremely important. And one of the things that I talk with people about when they're thinking about buying their first home is, where do you want to be? Because often people are coming to St. Louis, they've not been here very long, or they may be relocating for a job, and they don't know where to start. And I think that one of the places for them to start is to understand where they spend their time, where they want to spend their time. Is it important for them to be close to their place of employment? Close to where they want to hang out. I know some people say, look, I like hanging out here. I don't want to live anywhere near there.
Yeah, right.
And I get that.
They want to distinguish, and it's what you're saying about St. Louis is true for any city.
Yes.
Any city. So you might be relocating, you might be moving to Philadelphia, to New York, to Cleveland, anywhere, and you don't know the area, mm-hmm. and so where do you even begin? But the other thing is, if you're a native to that city, we tend to go where we know, right, where we grew up, and it might be nice to broaden our horizons a little bit.
Yeah, we can definitely get into our little bubbles, and that can be a challenge if you're looking at home ownership in the area that you grew up in, because there may be other areas that you might consider that may make sense for you. Yeah. And what I would encourage people to do is, especially when they're not terribly familiar with the areas, is to drive around. Go and check out the neighborhood at different times of the day. Go during a rush hour, go during, Saturday night, Sunday morning. See what the neighborhood's like at different periods of time that you're going to be there. Then you're going to learn. And asking your realtor, that the realtor can't really give you an accurate answer for that, because everyone's experiences are different.
Yeah.
It's like when you ask if the neighborhood is safe, my definition of safety is completely different than yours.
Right.
So, we really need to understand that, you've got to do your own homework a little bit, and your realtor can be a good guide in helping you to discover some resources on how you're going to get the answers to the questions that you're looking for.
Right, and one of the questions we hear a lot and people think about is school district. Mm-hmm. And that 25-year-old who maybe isn't married, doesn't have kids yet, should they even be concerned about that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, even when you don't need certain things in a home, it's important to have those things in a home, because when you're thinking of investing in home ownership, you've got to not only think about what it is that you're looking for, but what is the person who you're going to sell the home to looking for.
So even if you're going to buy a home now and maybe won't be selling for another 10 years, should you still be thinking about that?
Absolutely.
So
and now it should,
as from an economic standpoint, like an investment then, is what
absolutely,
you're saying.
it is an investment.
Yeah.
Home ownership is an investment. It's also a place that you live. So let's be clear, you don't want to necessarily make all of your decisions based on, when you're going to resale. Yeah. You want to be happy there as well. But when things are equal or when things are close, you want to err on the side of making the decision that is going to be more in alignment with what the consumers are going to be looking for when the time comes for you to sell.
Okay, so this is some really good advice from Nate. I love this because it's true. And, I know personally I've made decisions thinking just about me and not about that future buyer for my home.
Yeah, and you mentioned school districts. School districts, although not the end all, they are a factor. And when you're looking at two particular homes, and one is in one school district that is better than the other, maybe you consider that if all things are equal otherwise. Think about what the trade-offs are, and do your pros and cons list. Right. What are the pros of this property? What are the cons of it? And make sure that you are looking at it from an objective standpoint, and then also subjectively, because you're in love with the way that this home looks, or this particular neighborhood. But look at all those things. You got to marry them to sort of come to the right decision as far as the home that you're going to invest in.
Yeah, and how much weight should you put on the surrounding area? So let's say beautiful home, maybe it had been a tear down, and it's a brand new home in a neighborhood that still has homes that haven't been updated, renovated. Maybe you've got the hoarder next door. How much does that impact your decision? Because that might go away, right, in the 10 years.
It might go away, but it might not. Mm-hmm. And that's a fact. That's something to consider. You have to look at the trends of how the neighborhood is evolving. If you are the first mover in a neighborhood where you're now the most expensive home in the neighborhood because you have the new shiny home and all the rest of the homes may not be in line with the value of your home, that could be a bit of a challenge for a while. Yeah. Because you are, you're not on par with your neighbors, or your neighbors aren't on par with you. So as a result, your home likely isn't appreciating at the same rate as the rest of the neighborhood. Yeah. There's that adage that you don't typically want to be the most expensive home in the neighborhood. Yeah. And when you're doing that, that's exactly what you are, is the most expensive home in the neighborhood. Yeah. Now, having said that, it could definitely turn around, and if you have a plan or see a trend where this is going to happen, so although right now you may be the most expensive home, there's a trend that all the rest of the homes are kind of coming along. Right. Then you're going to be able to maximize the value and maybe create a bonus for yourself based on being that first mover.
Yeah, great tips. Thank you so much for being with us today, Nate. Really appreciate it, and great advice for our potential buyers or current buyers right now in our audience. Keep coming back for more interesting lore and the ins and outs of buying and selling real estate today. I'm Sarah Bernard with Real Life.